on the LinkedIn. Oh boy, my kids are making a lot of noise. You live now?
Live.
We are live?
Yeah, I'm live. You're live.
Beautiful. And let's see if there's a delay here. It's like a 25-second delay from what I can tell.
Yeah, that big?
I think so. Give me 1 second. Oh my God. Apologize in advance for my kids. Seriously. Wow.
Yeah, I got off.
Do you hear them? Do you hear them?
Faintly.
Okay, cool. Okay, let me just.
I guess we'll give people a few seconds to join on. I mean, there should be about like you said, like a 20-second delay from when we speak until it broadcasts on Facebook.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. I don't even know what I was going to ask just now. Okay, whatever. It's all good. So are we want? I assume you want to wait to see how many people come in, right?
Yeah, I think let's give people. I see we have 2 people watching.
Where do I see that? Where do I see that? Do I see that or just you?
I'm not sure if the guest is here or just the host.
Where do you see that?
Top left corner.
Yeah, not in here.
No?
Okay. Wait, so you're telling me right now this is now streaming to LinkedIn and Facebook?
Yeah.
Under Penguin?
Under my account.
Under your account. So let's see here.
LinkedIn Live is still very buggy and iffy. I'm not sure.
Let's see. This is now streaming to LinkedIn. See, it's like a 10-second delay. It's not bad.
Yeah, from now until I push it to Facebook, it takes a few seconds. LinkedIn is very iffy with their live stream, so I had you have to request access to live stream. Penguin had access. I had access. At some point, Penguin's access was revoked for some reason, just because I guess maybe lack of usage or something. And LinkedIn is very kind of turning it on and off on a very.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I know that Yoel has live streams on LinkedIn, and I just never. I mean, I did it with him, but I don't have access, so it's fine.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So I see we have people trying to join. And so today I just wanted to grab you. A couple of months ago we spoke about you wanted to launch a newsletter. And both HubSpot jumped at the opportunity to do it to supply the technology. Penguin supplying some kind of the back end and the setup and everything.
Penguin is supplying David Yahid.
Yeah, I'm happy to work on it. I get first access to the news.
I bought abovethefold.com today, by the way.
Oh, cool. So we can link that to the landing page directly.
Yep.
And so so we launched. You launched the newsletter about just over 2 months ago. Phenomenal numbers. But I know that anyone who's in marketing has probably heard more than once that newsletters are dead. Nobody reads them. Why waste your time? And I just wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about why you're launching a newsletter now and kind of what the thought behind it was. And then we could go into some tips and tricks on how to optimize them.
Yep. So I actually don't understand why anyone would ever say that newsletters are dead. I mean, the truth is, I'm going to admit it, for full transparency, I met with the CEO of Power Inbox many years ago, and I said, email's dead. Every time I talk about email now, what'd you say? Yeah, Jeff, yeah. Every time I talk about email now, he always emails me and he's like, see, told you so. But I actually think that newsletters make a whole lot more sense than other ways of consuming content. I'll tell you why. Gone are the days, in my opinion, where we pull. I feel like push is where we're at right now, whether it's push notifications on your phone, whether it's, updates from Google that are more active versus you just searching. I feel like, none of us have time or patience. We're all just, bombarded with noise. And so if I can get the most relevant content pushed to my inbox, why would I not? Now, again, to be fair, none of us like email, right? In other words, email was invented to increase productivity, and it's basically doing the exact opposite. Right, so when the other day I went out with my wife and, I had offered an entrepreneur to introduce him to investors, and he decided to send all those intro emails as I'm out with my wife. So I knew I had 20 unread emails in my inbox. The level of anxiety I had was was not pretty. So my inbox is always at inbox 1, 0 usually, but when I have a task, it's at 1, 2, whatever. And so I don't like a lot of email. Having said that, and by the way, I don't subscribe to a lot of newsletters. But if someone has good content that really brings me value in my life, why would I want to search for it versus it coming to my inbox?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not just search for it. It's people are busy. They forget to search for it. It just slips in their mind, but then it gets pushed into your inbox and it reminds you on top of mind.
Yeah.
And
also like on a personal level, I just love writing. Like I actually just love writing. And so, I write on Facebook, I write for some publications, Inc. and Entrepreneur and other places. But any excuse to write for me is, I like writing. So the truth is when I built my website originally, HillelFuld.com, and we have to give a shout out to Nathaniel and his team at Bagel Studio. When he built my website, he added a newsletter, like a call to action, sign up for my newsletter. I didn't have a newsletter yet, but the amount of signups, I was like, holy hell, I need to actually have a newsletter. This is crazy. Like so many people signed up. And, I want to believe, and I'm not going to like pat myself on the back here, but I know that my inbox and even my DM inbox on Twitter is full of people asking me to retweet their stuff, even though these people have 100 times more followers than me. And the reason that is, and I've asked them, by the way, I've asked them many times, like, why are you asking me to tweet your stuff? You have 1 million more followers than me. And they said to me, because your audience is very, very engaged. And the reason that is because I didn't buy followers. All I did was produce good content over the years, and I gave people a reason to click follow. And so, the guy who invented the like button at Facebook, Jared Morgenstern, he said, like, I wanted to create a mechanism to give people the ability to express their gratitude and appreciation for other people's content. And what did we do? Us marketers, we ruined it, right? We like beg for likes and beg for, instead of doing that, give me actual good content. And so I have my whole entire career, I've focused on good content. And that's the reason I want to believe that, people like Alyssa Milano or Ellen DeGeneres or Coca-Cola or other whatever follow me. I hope it's because of good content. And so, if I could produce good content and people are interested, I don't care what format it's in. I don't care, what medium it's in. People want good content. I'll produce good content for them. And so, this is just another format. I have my blog. I have all my publications, TechCrunch, The Next Adventure. I write for all these places. I have my vlog, right? My video blog. I have my podcast. And I feel like in the portfolio of my content, newsletter was missing. So that's really the thought process.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I think there's also the 3 steps of, the 3, how urgent, how fast it gets out to you. Obviously, the articles are the slowest because it's, something happens until you write about it, until you publish it, until it gets slotted in, and, it takes a few days. Newsletters could be a lot quicker. Within a day, you could get out a newsletter, and then social media is probably the most instant. And I think aside from just the good content, it's also you have access to news before most other people. So, you tweet about it, you share it, 10 hours later, you hear about it on the news.
Right. So, I mean, I'm trying to feature companies in my newsletter that are not well known. Like I'm, doing Startup of the Month. I'm not going to put in Waze. Like, Waze doesn't need more publicity. So I hope till now, including this upcoming newsletter in the beginning of the month, I've been featuring less known startups and generally startups that are impactful. That's kind of what excites me. Companies that are making the world a better place, not just another social network or whatever. Right. But I chose the topics pretty carefully because I don't think there's a lot of, or there's not, I should say, there's a disproportionate number, and I mean on the low end of content about mental health, right? 1 out of every 2 people suffers from something or it affects their life in some way. And, yes, there are some companies doing cool stuff, BetterHelp and Talkspace just went public, and there are cool companies doing stuff, but not enough, and definitely not enough talk about it. So I figured, use my platform to talk about mental health, and then Startup of the Month, like I said, a Product of the Month, and just tech trends. I feel like, there's a lot of noise in all our feeds, but really, like, where do you, I'm an advisor at Flipboard, right? I love Flipboard, but like, if Hillel Fuld wakes up and wants to know a snapshot of what's going on in tech, just the important things. I don't care that this company raised 20 million. I want to know the important things. I feel like there's no, I guess, ultimate kind of owner of that. And I have a friend, Guy Malachi, who's my co-host on my podcast, who just is launching a company to solve that problem. But if I can cover tech trends, at least local tech trends, I feel like why not? People are interested in this stuff,
Yeah, I agree. Now, back to your point when you said earlier that you didn't buy your list, you grew it. I think that's a really important point. That we looked at the stats from the first newsletter, second newsletter. Industry averages talk about 20 to 25% open rate is considered good, and you were 50 and above. You're in the 60s, if I remember correctly. And I think that really comes back to, like you said, good content and people wanting to opt in as opposed to having to opt in order to download a piece of content. They wanted a white paper, so they had to give you your email address or something. They just, people came in voluntarily, said, we want to hear from you, email us, and that'll increase engagement.
Right. I do think that and this is not something I speak about very often, but I do think there's a connection between my engagement numbers and how I started my career, right? As you know, I started my career as a technical writer. What's a technical writer? A guy who sits and interviews engineers all day long and takes their, engineer language and translates it into English, right?
Yeah.
And so my first job was learning how to simplify things. And so I find that a lot of entrepreneurs think that if they use fancy, sophisticated language and buzzwords, they're viewed as smart and talented. And it's exactly the opposite, right? It's exactly the opposite. As Da Vinci said, my favorite quote ever, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It's not, you don't have to be a genius to just use fancy words. You have to be a genius to be able to take complex concepts and simplify them. And I want to believe that that's how I write. When I write, whether it's on blogs and publications or on social, I do often send my content to someone who's not techie and say, do you understand this? And if they don't, I know I'm not doing my job well. And so I want to believe that it's that, I guess, I don't know, for lack of a better term, I guess I write like we talk. I don't use sophisticated, I simplify it. And so I think that that's something that's engaging with a lot of people and just kind of compelling content. I just think, I'll tell you my challenge though, and I don't know how to solve this. I don't know if there's a solution for it. I would imagine there's probably a crazy overlap between the people that are subscribed to my newsletter and the people that follow me on Facebook. So it's redundant. They're getting the same content oftentimes. It's not the same, but if I'm featuring a startup, chances are I spoke about them on social media. And so they're kind of hearing it twice, which is a problem because I know that there are thousands and thousands of people who follow me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and they're getting the same content 3 times. I don't know how that doesn't drive people crazy. That's the truth. But I feel like there needs to be a solution to that.
Well, I think people, they subscribe on different channels, but also it's hitting them at different times and different states of mind. When you're scrolling through Facebook, you're just sitting on the couch watching TV, scrolling through Facebook versus a newsletter, which you're maybe, intentionally opening something with the idea of consuming it and not just scrolling through and seeing if anything catches your eye.
How are we doing on viewers here? I can't see how many viewers
we have 3 live at the moment. We've gone to 4 or 5 and down. We have 2 comments. Jonathan Kahn said good move earlier, and Martin Seckel said that you write extremely clearly.
Thank you, friends. So listen, the truth is now, we've been talking about me here, but let's talk about you for 1 second. The truth is, I would not have been able to do this without you personally and Penguin and HubSpot. I'm literally sitting on my phone on the notepad. I literally, by the way, have the next newsletter written in my notepad on my iPhone. And I literally just send it to you. I just send you the content on WhatsApp and you basically take care of the rest. So with all due respect to my content, this thing wouldn't have happened had it not been for Penguin and for, HubSpot, which is super cool. It's just for me, I'm a big fan of Penguin. I love the company, love the team, love Perry. I just, I'm a fan. And so to have a sponsorship by you guys is super cool. And HubSpot, it's just bananas. I know that you guys are the official partner of HubSpot in Israel, and I would imagine without you that wouldn't have happened anyway. But even so, the fact that HubSpot is sponsoring my newsletter is just completely bananas.
Well, some insights, just so you know, HubSpot they went from 0 direct sales rep in Israel last year to 4 this year because they're putting a big emphasis on the Israeli market, and you are pretty much their source of knowledge on how the Israeli ecosystem is ticking.
That's cool.
That's just some inside kind of conversations. They're like, we need to understand Israel. Let's follow Hillel Fuld and see what he says.
By the way, I love that. Number 1. Number 2, maybe it's worth actually setting up a meeting, face to face. We had that. You had that a couple of years ago. I met with the HubSpot team, but let's set up a meeting. Maybe we could do something more streamlined. Maybe we could do something more formal, more streamlined. I don't know.
Okay. Well, when they start traveling again, we'll bring them over.
Cool. So tell me about Penguin, dude.
So what about Penguin?
Penguin's I don't know. Tell me what is Penguin Strategies?
Penguin Strategies. So we specialize in, like you said, taking complex technology and simplifying it. We work with B2B tech companies and try to basically simplify these complex technologies that they're developing. Clients include the cybersecurity for automotives. And, I don't even know the terminology for sub network things to make AT&T data go faster and things like that. So I specialize in taking that, explaining it to the right audience in the words that the audience will understand, and just getting the word out there through various, the digital means.
What's your, just keep hit me with your I guess, I don't know what to call your offering. What does Penguin Strategies offer companies? Give me the services that you offer.
So we offer basically turnkey 360 marketing services for tech companies. So we'll do everything from, we have a full strategy team, which is effectively a fractional CMO. to help you figure out, who your audience is, what the messaging is, what the personas are, all that stuff. We have a full-blown tech team that could do anything and everything RevOps related. HubSpot, Salesforce, Drift, chatbots, whatever it is. And then we have the full agency services, kind of everything that's, content writing, blogs, social media, videos, design.
So it sounds to me like what's unique about you guys is that you're both qualitative and quantitative. In other words, when I work with companies, I don't deal with quantitative stuff at all. I don't touch advertising. Never ran a campaign in my life on Facebook or Google or whatever. But you guys, it sounds like you're full stack marketing, both advertising and let's call it the branding side of things, social and content, all that stuff, right?
Right. So we are effectively, we could join any, work with any tech company and fill whatever gaps they have in their marketing team, whether it's a small startup that has a student doing their marketing, their PowerPoint decks to raise their first round and they have no one to really run anything, all the way to, on the big end where, Monday.com and NetApp and companies like that, where they already have.
Monday?
We work with Monday.
Wow. That's wild. What a crazy company, huh?
Yeah.
Wild.
I love the Monday Wix billboards on Tel Aviv right now.
It's unbelievable. It's so. I mean, they interviewed me on their podcast when they were still DePulse, and at the time I felt like I was talking to like a struggling startup. But turned out that even as DePulse, they were doing super well. I didn't know that. But the story, the urban legend. It's not just an urban legend. It's true that Eden Shochat from Aleph VC went with the founders of Monday to Silicon Valley to raise capital. They went on a whole roadshow and nobody wanted to invest. And they came back and Avi Ayal from Entree Capital put in some initial capital. Rumor on the street, and I love Avi. He's a good friend, and I hope he won't be angry at me saying this. I have no confirmation of this. He did not tell me a thing. This is all I heard from whatever, is that he cashed out at $300 million on their IPO.
Wow.
It makes sense. He was literally he put in super early.
Yeah. Not a bad exit.
Yeah, so he's buying dinner next time. Anyway, so listen, I'm having a good time with this newsletter, and I feel like I said before, I feel like it completes kind of my full stack content, offering, let's call it, right? So, it was kind of a no-brainer. The truth is, the question we should be asking is why it took me so long. That's the real question.
Well, I know we started talking about this right before COVID hit, and then that kind of torpedoed this to sidelines for a little bit. So we were more than happy to jump back on the bandwagon when it came around again. But it made a lot of sense to me when you said you want to launch a newsletter, and not just because we're seeing, again, the people that say that newsletters are dead are the people that are either buying lists or the people who don't know how to send a newsletter. But they always have the best ROI. You always get to the audience. If you build your thing correctly, then you're going to have a good ROI in people opening it. But why the piece that I think it was missing from what you have now is that the newsletter is actually owned audience. If tomorrow, for whatever reason, Facebook decides that you're too pro-Israel, they don't want that thing, they shut down your account, you lose your audience.
Right.
But a newsletter, Inc. decides to go political, you're from Israel, we don't talk to Israel, whatever, they shut you down. You lose everything. But a newsletter is something they can't take from you. You could always communicate with that audience in the long run. And that's audience that you own. That's why I thought it made a lot of sense to kind of launch that.
Very interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about that. It's really, while maybe the scenarios that you described are a little bit unrealistic, I hope. I'm saying I have had columns or gigs, end for whatever reason. And so it's true. I say to startups all the time, I literally had a call to startup an hour ago and he's like, so should I post my content on LinkedIn or Facebook? I'm like, dude, your content needs to be on your own property, on your own web asset, let's call it, meaning a blog, a site, a podcast, whatever it is. And then you use these platforms to distribute that content, but don't give LinkedIn ownership of your content. That's nuts. Remember what we're trying to do here. It's building a brand. You need to own the content. So it's interesting that I didn't think about what you just said. It's a really good point, actually.
Right. So you own the content. And aside from that, LinkedIn, when you put the content on your own website, aside from just the communicating with your customers, whatever it is, it's also the SEO and all the backend stuff and how to get more audience into your thing. And it's long-term investment into your marketing and branding and all that.
Right. I'm thinking of adding. Sorry, 1 second. I'm thinking of adding a category. Tell me what you think. How about lessons for business from the Torah the weekly Torah portion?
Yeah, I think that would be interesting.
It's unique. No one else is doing that.
It's definitely.
By the way, speaking of Torah part, how many newsletters are you personally subscribed to? Just curious.
I don't know.
Like 1, 2, 10, 20?
Probably read 2 or 3. Subscribe to more, but read 2 or 3.
Yes, I'm basically subscribed to none except for Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who died recently of cancer. But before he died, he left a year's worth of lessons on the Torah portion by email. And so I get those emails once a week and I love them. I don't think I'm subscribed, at least I didn't opt in, I should say, to any other newsletter as far as I know. I have to opt out of a lot of them, but yeah, I don't actually subscribe to that many newsletters. So it's all about value at the end of the day. If it's valuable, I'll subscribe. And so that's my goal here, is just provide people with real value.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, if you're already bringing up the Torah portion correlation to the tech. And so actually just this week, I heard something that was interesting when they were talking about the donations that they gave to building the Mishkan. It doesn't say Talmud, it says V'Talmud, meaning it could be read the same way back and forth, because whatever you give is what you get.
Oh,
that's tying it in. It made me think of you, because you keep saying that.
Wait, what's this week's portion?
Yeah, not this week's, but it's
in general, you're saying?
Someone just mentioned to me this week.
Interesting. So you're talking about the fact that it says V'Kuli Truma. Is that what you're saying?
No, but when it says when the Jews were actually giving, it says V'Talmud Bnei Israel, not Talmud. They added that.
Send it to me afterwards. I don't take a look at it. Interesting. Yeah, you said there's a question?
Yes, I see. Actually, Jonathan is actually saying he would much rather amazing quotes from businesses from entrepreneurs. What else? We're just getting some comments here in the thing.
Why don't I see the comments? I don't get it.
See it here. Here's one from Nadav Julius. How
did I see that all of a sudden? I didn't see that before.
I'm popping them up on screen now.
That's so weird. I've actually been noticing a lot of YouTubers doing newsletters. That's interesting. I didn't notice that trend. Very interesting.
Here, this theory is a very active one, for example.
I've never heard of it. Don't even know what that is.
This is Jonathan's comment.
I would much rather amazing quotes for business from entrepreneurs. Rather this over what? I don't know what that was a response.
I think he posted this in response to the Parsha, Parsha quote.
I can do both. Actually, it's not a bad idea. Imagine every newsletter I get one quote from a leading CEO.
Yeah,
not a bad idea.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I just bought AboveTheFold.com right before we started. Actually, I'm gonna probably connect it to. I'll connect it to the landing page, I guess.
Yeah, we'll set that up. Cool. So I think we, like I said, I think there's a lot to do with launching a newsletter. I think we touched on some of the important points of, if your newsletter is failing, it's probably because you bought your list and didn't build it organically. Because if people opt in, they get it. Right. One of the things that I kind of suggest people definitely do when they build a newsletter is do the double opt-in for a couple of reasons. First of all, so that you don't have me signing you up and then you start getting junk that you never asked for. But also it actually adds a second layer of when I sign, if I'm signing up for a newsletter and I get the double opt-in, I'll go to my email right away and click on that, open that email, click that link. And that kind of tells my spam filters that I'm interested in this content and want to read it, as opposed to getting a newsletter out of the blue one day and not knowing what to do with it.
Right. By the way, this video on LinkedIn, is it going to be available after, or it's just live?
Yeah, it's going to be available after, and we can also download the recording if you want and send it over.
Oh, that's cool. I wonder what quality the recording's in. Do you know? What is StreamYard? I never heard of it.
No. So they are, in order to do LinkedIn Lives, you have to do through a mediary. They don't do directly on LinkedIn. So
that's so typical Microsoft. Like so typical. Why? Why would you launch a live option if you can't do it from the platform? That makes no sense. What a bad user experience. I'm ripping on Microsoft, but whatever. I love Microsoft. We love Microsoft. Do you know that they just hit a $2 trillion market cap yesterday? $2 trillion.
That's insane.
That's literally insane, by the way. It's not even a joke. Speaking of insane numbers, I think we should probably give a little bit of a shout out to what the heck is going on in this country in terms of tech companies. This week alone, we have 3 multi-billion dollar IPOs, massive IPOs. And it happens to be that Viola is an investor in 2 of the 3. I'll tell you who it is in a second. I just posted about it. We have, hold on, Iron Source is going public at $11 billion, and Payoneer is going public at a $3 billion valuation, and Sentinel One is going public at an $8 billion valuation. And I just think, and I know I say this all the time, but it's worth mentioning, we're talking about a country smaller than New Jersey in the worst neighborhood on earth. Like, It doesn't make any sense whatsoever that Israel is dominating the tech sector across all verticals, right? Israel used to be like, strong at whatever, it's semiconductors, it's cyber because of the military. Today, literally name one sector of technology that Israel's not a significant player in. It doesn't exist. It's crazy.
Right. Everyone has their theories on this, the army and the situation we're in and the thing. Personally, I think part of it is the access, is that here in Israel, you could access anybody. In the States, there's no way that a startup could talk to the CEO of Citibank or the CEO of Verizon or something like that. But here it's, you easily find someone that'll introduce you to those people here to kind of pitch your idea, ask questions, whatever it is. And I think it's the mutual help. Here,
definitely part of it, no question.
Here, while it is very competitive, it's very collaborative going outwards.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't think there's one right answer here. I think that the reason Israel is excelling at tech is a whole bunch of reasons, whether it's the culture, whether it's our, I really think our history has a lot to do with it. I know that sounds super whatever, but, again, not to get too deep here, but throughout our history, we kind of like had to use our resources to survive. And now we're kind of home. And so we have all these extra, quote unquote, extra resources. So we're using it to change the world. I really believe that's part of it. And it's the culture, and, Israeli culture, for better or for worse, like, is very unique. I always joke, but it's a true thing. Like, in the United States, putting aside New York, if you want to switch lanes, you put your blinker on and the driver in the next lane slows down to let you in. In Israel, they speed up. Like, it's a real thing, And so, it's not so good when it comes to driving or business development, but when it comes to building tech, like, you tell an Israeli entrepreneur something's impossible and they'll be like, all right, I'm going to build it. Like, we don't let anyone to our lane, it's like a thing. And so I think there's a lot of elements that make Israeli tech what it is. But again, I don't hear many people speaking about the fact that we're quote unquote sector agnostic. It used to be specific sectors, but things that like people don't even know that Israel's kicking butt. Like, for example, drones. Do you know how many drone startups there are in this country? It's insane. Like, from hardware, building the actual drone, to using AR for drones, EGBs, to building, crazy drone there's so many drone companies. Healthcare, there are literally probably 1,000 healthcare startups in this country that are attacking and trying, targeting things like curing cancer, ALS, mental health. Like, there's just so many, and there's no, I don't think there's any sector, and by the way, to be clear, I'm not saying that Israel's number one in every sector, but in every sector, as far as I know, Israel is,
a significant
one,
player.
number two, number three. Yeah, we're a significant player. And I think that's unbelievable. In fact, one of the things that Israel used to be very weak at is consumer, because we're a tiny little country. So how can you build a consumer product? Not only are there incredible consumer companies like Fiverr and Lemonade and Lightrix and so many others, but I've recently met 3 companies in Israel that are selling direct to consumer hardware, making millions and millions of dollars. So Glasses USA is Israeli, which is just crazy. The mattress company Resident, they sell mattresses from Israel. And then today I met a company, Woojer, that builds this immersive technology thing, and they sell directly from their website, and they have tens of millions of dollars of sales, direct to consumer. Like, Israel, again, like, when people talk about Israel, like, but consumer, you're weak at consumer. Well, we're not weak at consumer anymore. Like, look at these companies. There's some crazy crypto as well. Nadav said it's true. Like, crypto, we're super hot in crypto. Don't forget food tech, 100%. Like, it's every single sector. Israel is leading the way. And when I say leading the way, again, not number 1 or number 2, sometimes we're number 3, but we're up there. And it makes no sense that on NASDAQ, the country with the most companies on NASDAQ is obviously the United States of America, followed by China, which has 1.5 billion people. And then Israel, 9 million people. What the heck? That makes no sense. But we're partying over here, having a good time.
I think just last week they're saying the market cap of the Israeli companies on the NASDAQ exceeds the entire Tel Aviv Stock Exchange.
That's wild. I think it was $300 billion. Israeli companies are worth $300 billion on NASDAQ, which I don't even know what to do with that information. It's just so great. Every day, by the way, every day I'm posting another company that just became a unicorn or IPO'd. It's just every day. It's wild.
68 in the past 2 months or something like that.
I don't know. It's just so crazy. It's really crazy. It's funny. I make these infographics with Nir, and just have to update them all the time because there's new unicorns all the freaking time. It's wild.
Yeah, it's one a day for the past 10 days or something.
Yep, it's unbelievable. Anyway, dude, I want to thank you for sure, and your team at Penguin and HubSpot for helping me do this, because you guys facilitated it. I literally just wrote the content. I'm having a good time with it. Let's keep at it. And I guess the next newsletter, will be going out in what?
Next couple of days.
Yeah, let's say in the next week or so.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for that, and I'm excited. It's gonna be good. I feel like we'll expand this collaboration down the road. I'm sure we'll do a lot of good stuff together.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Good stuff.
Looking forward to it. All right. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for showing me how to do a LinkedIn Live. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll show you the back end of this. Pretty cool system, StreamYard.
Very cool. All right. So this is going to be saved on LinkedIn, and people can then watch it afterwards.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, dude. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, man.
Bye.
Later. Bye.